What is the most dangerous threat to America? It doesn't roar across oceans or creep over borders. It comes silently from over the top of the world through the frozen sky above the North Pole. For most of us, the Arctic is just a place on a map, a white expanse from nature documentaries. But for military planners and nuclear strategists, it's something else entirely. It's the shortest road to either catastrophe or survival. And at the center of that road is an enormous island most Americans never think about, yet generations of U.S. leaders have quietly obsessed over: Greenland. The world's largest island is staggeringly vast, larger than Mexico or Saudi Arabia. For centuries, it was dismissed as an icy wasteland, useful only to the indigenous Inuit who learned to thrive there. But beneath the ice and silence lies one of the most important strategic positions on Earth. To understand why, you have to realize something most people don't consider. In a nuclear war between major powers, missiles don't fly east or west. They fly north. The fastest, most direct path between Russia and the United States curves right over the Arctic Circle. Any missile launched at North America will pass directly over Greenland's airspace. This simple fact makes Greenland priceless. Whoever controls it controls early warning systems, radar detection, and tracking. They control the precious minutes that separate retaliation from annihilation. In nuclear strategy, those minutes are everything. This isn't just theory, it's geometry. And that geometry has shaped American thinking for over a century. Beyond the skies, the seas tell the same story. Between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK lies a narrow maritime corridor naval planners have obsessed over since World War II. It's the gateway between Russia's northern fleet and the open Atlantic. Any hostile submarine trying to reach America's east coast must pass through it. During the Cold War, this choke point was one of the most heavily monitored stretches of ocean on Earth. Today, it's just as critical. And now, something else has changed the entire equation. The ice is retreating. In just a few decades, the Arctic has gone from an impenetrable barrier to a new frontier. Sea routes that were once fantasy are now becoming viable corridors for trade, energy, and military movement. What was once a frozen moat is becoming a highway. This change has not gone unnoticed. Russia has been rebuilding and expanding its Arctic bases at a speed unseen since the Soviet era. Airfields, radar stations, missile systems, all aimed at controlling the northern approaches. And China, despite having no Arctic coastline, now calls itself a near-Arctic power, operating icebreakers and seeking economic footholds across the region. At the center of it all sits Greenland. American awareness of its importance isn't new. It dates back to the 19th century, right after the Civil War. One statesman, fresh off securing Alaska, a deal mocked at the time, turned his attention eastward. He understood something fundamental. Control of the Arctic would one day shape global power. Alaska secured the western flank. Greenland would secure the east, creating an unbroken northern shield. He commissioned surveys, studied harbors, and concluded that if the U.S. failed to secure Greenland, another power eventually would, and America would pay the price. But the opportunity slipped away. Decades later, when war engulfed Europe, the cost of that hesitation became clear. With Denmark occupied, its owner couldn't defend the island, nor stop an enemy from using it. American leaders chose survival over diplomacy. Airfields and radar installations rose from the frozen ground. Greenland became a lifeline for the entire war effort. The lesson was unmistakable. Greenland was no longer optional, it was essential. As the Cold War began, its value multiplied. The island became the silent sentinel watching the Arctic sky, the forward edge of America's warning system. Yet even then the solution was incomplete. The U.S. had access without ownership, presence without control, a fragile arrangement built on goodwill. For decades, American presidents lived with that compromise, fully aware of its limitations, until one decided to stop pretending. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces that shape our world. For most of the Cold War, Greenland's value was simple. It was measured in radar signals and bomber routes, a static piece of geography defined by defense alone. But in the 21st century, a second dimension has emerged, one that may prove just as decisive as missiles and submarines. It's what lies beneath the ice. Greenland isn't just strategically located, it is resource-rich on a scale that could reshape global power. For generations, those resources were locked away, inaccessible beneath miles of ice and extreme weather. But as technology improves and the climate changes, those barriers are eroding. Energy is the most obvious prize. Off Greenland's coasts sit enormous untapped reserves of oil and gas. Enough to influence global markets, reduce dependence on unstable regions, and attract the attention of every major power hungry for long-term energy security. But energy is only the beginning. The real strategic gold lies in minerals. Most people have never heard of elements so obscure their names rarely appear outside engineering labs, yet so essential that modern civilization cannot function without them: rare earth elements. These materials are the backbone of advanced technology. They power our smartphones, electric vehicles, wind turbines, and the missile guidance systems and radar arrays that define modern warfare. Without them, advanced economies stall, militaries weaken, innovation slows to a crawl. And today, one country dominates their supply: China. Through decades of quiet, strategic planning, Beijing secured control over the vast majority of global rare earth processing. It didn't just mine them, it mastered the refining, the supply chains, and the leverage that comes with it. And it has not hesitated to use that leverage when tensions rise. Greenland threatens that dominance. Beneath its ancient rock formations sit some of the largest known deposits of rare earths on the planet. Enough to break monopolies, restore industrial independence to the West, and decide who leads the next technological era. This reality has not gone unnoticed by Beijing. Chinese firms have pursued stakes in Greenlandic mining projects, attempted to acquire strategic infrastructure, and sought influence quietly and patiently, not through conquest but through contracts and capital. This is how modern power expands. Meanwhile, Europe has struggled to act. Regulatory paralysis and political hesitation have left much of Greenland's potential untouched. Projects stall, opportunities fade. And while debates drag on, competitors move. For the United States, this presents a stark choice: allow a strategic competitor to secure economic leverage at America's northern doorstep, or act. This isn't just about sovereignty. It's about responsibility. Greenland's population is small, isolated, and has historically been marginalized. For centuries, decisions about their land were made thousands of miles away, often with harmful consequences. Many Greenlanders now desire true self-determination, a future shaped on their own terms. That desire intersects perfectly with American interests. Geographically, Greenland is part of North America. Its indigenous population traces ancient connections across the Arctic, and its future lies not in foreign subsidies but in sustainable development. The question isn't whether Greenland will change, it already is. The question is, who will shape that change? History shows us that when power vacuums emerge, they don't stay empty for long. They are filled by whoever moves first and moves decisively. In the Arctic, that race has already begun. Russia builds military bases. China builds economic influence. Europe debates. America deliberates. But deliberation has a cost. The old agreements were made for a different world, one with frozen seas and predictable threats. That world is gone. Today's Arctic is crowded, contested, and accelerating toward competition. In this new environment, ambiguity is a danger. This is the logic driving renewed American attention toward Greenland, not as an act of conquest, but of strategic necessity. Not to dominate a people, but to secure a region whose fate will shape global stability for generations to come. Great powers don't choose their geography. They respond to it. And Greenland sits right where the future is being decided. Every generation inherits moments it cannot avoid, decisions shaped not by preference but by circumstance. The Arctic is one of those moments. As ice retreats, the map of the world is quietly being redrawn. New sea lanes are emerging. New resources are becoming reachable. New military realities are replacing old assumptions. Nations that act early get to shape the rules. Those that hesitate are forced to inherit them. For the United States, Greenland represents the convergence of every major strategic challenge of our time. Great power rivalry, resource security, technological independence, and homeland defense. It's not a question of desire. It's a question of timing. Now, some opponents argue that existing arrangements are good enough, that access without control is sufficient, that cooperation can somehow substitute for certainty. But history suggests otherwise. Temporary agreements fray under pressure. Goodwill evaporates when interests diverge. And permanent vulnerabilities practically invite exploitation. America's adversaries understand this very well. That's why they are moving with such urgency. They're conducting joint patrols, investing in infrastructure, and sending military signals all aimed at shaping the Arctic before anyone else does. And this is exactly why the debate over Greenland refuses to fade away. It's not because it's provocative, but because it is simply unavoidable. The cost of inaction is rarely visible at first. It only appears later when leverage is lost, when supply chains fail, when warning systems are compromised, and when options start to narrow. By then our choices become reactions. Real leadership is about acting before that moment arrives. The story of Greenland isn't just about land. It's about foresight. It's about whether the United States will apply the same strategic clarity that guided past generations when they secured frontiers that others had dismissed. Think about it, those decisions were controversial in their time. They were mocked and opposed, yet history vindicated them. Today, the Arctic stands at the very same crossroads. Greenland's future will be decided either by partnership, by pressure, or by passivity. The only certainty is that the world will not wait for us, and neither will America's competitors. If this documentary gave you a new perspective on a place most people overlook, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. These discussions matter, and your engagement helps bring more in-depth analysis like this to the surface. Thanks for watching.